Halfway between Hawaii and Australia, and just south of the equator, lies the tiny island of Nauru. Until a century ago, it had been one of the richest deposits of phosphate before mining by colonial governments, including New Zealand, left the island mostly barren. Nauru should be well off, but its wealth has disappeared because of mismanagement. Now, climate change is threatening their coastline, and they import most of their food because of lack of water and land. It's a cautionary tale for Māori and Aotearoa. But as Yulia Leilua found out, Nauruans remain optimistic.
This rusted Cadillac is all that remains of the Harris family's wealth. It was one of 4 brand new cars shipped in from Hawaii in 1975.
When that car go around, all the people, they run out and the kids, hey, look at this car, because through, not just car in there on the island, eh?
As landowners, their family earned thousands of dollars leasing their land out for phosphate mining.
Nauru is famous for its phosphate, which came from thousands of years of bird droppings mixed with Nauru's uplifted coral. Strip mining has exposed the coral again, making 80% of the country barren.
Nauru is the smallest republic in the world, with less than 10,000 people. You can travel around the whole island by car in 20 minutes. Phosphate mining took off here after World War I, when Australia, Britain and New Zealand took over Nauru's phosphate rights. After independence in 1968, the Nauruans bought back the phosphate rights and mined it till it was nearly gone in the 90s.
When I was young, a lot of butterflies came out of these trees.
Vinci Clodumar was an MP during the 90s. He's now in charge of restoring Nauru's barren interior. The country was compensated by Australia, New Zealand and the UK for environmental damages, but the land will never be the same.
Sometimes we used to go up wandering into the bush. And one weekend we got lost, couldn't find our way back. But now we don't see that. We are now looking to try and restore most of the land. The process involves removing the pinnacles, the coral rock, and then backfill that with crushed rock, and then lay topsoil on top, which we've been saving since the early 70s, I guess, and use that to lay on top of the reclaimed land. And then we go through the process of planting local trees.
Nauru was once called the Kuwait of the Pacific. At its peak, it had over $1 billion worth of investments meant to prop Nauru's economy when the phosphates ran out. But bad management and corruption meant that by the year 2000, Nauru was bankrupt.
Finance Minister Dr. Kieran Keke is a product of Nauru's heyday. A government scholarship allowed him to be educated in Australia and New Zealand. His goal was always to return home and work for his country, but he ended up part of a group which overthrew Nauru's political old guard in 2004.
Unfortunately, in the 90s, the phosphate industry globally dropped, and there was not an adjustment made by the governments at that time in Nauru to scale back the high levels of expenditure and the high expectations. It all just caught up. All the accrual of debts, the large deficit budgets, the loans, and frankly a lot of mismanagement, poor decision-making, poor advice, coupled with corruption and self-serving politicians at the time, basically saw us collapse overnight in 2001.
That same year, Nauru hosted the Pacific Forum Leaders meeting. A week later, over 400 refugees were rescued trying to enter Australia on a fishing boat. Nauru struck a deal with Australia to give the refugees temporary asylum. They stayed here for 3 years, and today the facilities have become a primary school in Vinci Clodomar's offices.
All the 1,400 were housed here, and some of the buildings you see were some of the office, that used to be a mess hall for the refugees, and all the buildings at the back were all residential.
The centres were closed in 2008, but there's been pressure to reopen them after the latest case of asylum seekers ended up in Australia's courts last month.
What we've said to Australia is that if you see there is a role for Nauru, we're open to playing a role. If you don't feel that there's a role for Nauru, we're as happy with the relationship that we have already.
Nauruans live on the island's thin coastline, which is slowly being eroded by drought and severe rainfall. Like other small islands, climate change is a real threat for Nauru.
When you have droughts, that will the coastal vegetation withers away, therefore you can't hold the sand back, and the increased rainfall erodes the sand away. There's saltwater intrusion into our freshwater lens. It's a combination of both over-extraction and sea level rise.
Nauru is a single export economy, and they're hoping to diversify once land is reclaimed. But the country will never regain its former status as one of the wealthiest countries in the world, at a time when people could afford luxury cars.
Now, because we got no money to repair. When the tire broken, we got no money to repair it. We got no petrol, something like that. That's why now go like this. We can't. All the money is run out of money. We run out of money.
Yulele Leilua reporting there from Nauru.